And I'm Claudia.
And we're the Judgy Crime Girls.
Hello.
Hi.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you, my wife.
I came into our studio today and was pleasantly surprised. Andrea's always so thoughtful. I wear a bunch of balloons. We are sipping a Long Island iced tea, and I have a confession to make. That's my first one.
I can't believe this is your first one.
Well, I'm not a fan. I'm sorry. It's liquor. I'm German. I drink beer. I love beer. I can do some cocktails if I can't taste the alcohol.
We needed a celebratory moment, and I'm afraid I've let you down because you didn't.
Oh, no. You didn't let me down. But okay. You're a liquor person. I'm not. You know, Andrea's always on top of everything, and I'm flighty. That's why we drive so well. Cheers.
Cheers.
It really does warm my whole chest.
It's on fire.
It's a little bit on fire. It's strong. I said earlier, if I had a 6-pack in me already, I'd be like, ooh, this is fabulous. I love it.
There's not a lot of people on the planet that you can just walk up to and be like, look, whore.
No, you're the whore. I walked in here today and I saw the balloons. Andrea was like, I got stuff to do. I'll catch up with you in a minute. I walked in here. I'm like, oh, you whore. Oh, everything is so pretty. Just gorgeous.
Thank you so much for supporting the podcast,
you guys.
Listening, and just being in our corner for the past year.
Yes.
It's
Thank you.
An awesome journey. Mm-hmm. And just kind of like a fun thing that Claudia and I both have this wicked, morbid interest in that a lot of people cannot relate to.
And also a very dark sense of humor, you know, which a lot of people don't get. They look at us, we crack up, and they're like, that was weird. And we're just laughing.
And here
we think we're funny.
I could not decide what case to cover today, but I ended up with the Abbotsford Taunting, and you will love this one. It was based in the 90s when cell phones were huge monstrosities that no one used for any sort of fun, right? You were frustrated with your cell phone case today. I mean, imagine. In 95, we had those flip phones with weird antennas on the top.
But man, I could text on those things, hit the number 1 3 times for C, and man, I could do all that in my sleep.
But there was no games. It was all business. There was texting and calling. That was it. In Abbotsford, Canada, which is just slightly above Washington State, kind of close to Vancouver, 2 teen girls were running amok on October 4th, 1995. And they were quite the pair, the two of them. Tanya Smith was 16 with her friend Misty Cockerell, who was 15. They had just ghosted a house party. They decided they weren't quite ready for the night to end, and they began walking a short distance to another friend's house who was having another party. So my kind of neighborhood,
party
right?
happened.
They're just, So top songs at the time were Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio.
Hell yeah.
And Boomtastic by Shaggy. So just picture these two jamming to that. And, you know, probably Walkmans were big then too. But we've got you all on GPS now. You can't get away with shit now.
Nope.
Well, they were walking past Abbotsford Hospital, and it was around midnight, and they heard something in the bushes kind of right by them. Well, all the while, this creep had been listening to their conversation and watching them.
Oh.
He waited to catch them off guard and then jumped out in front of them, flaunting an aluminum baseball bat at them.
Nice. Just kick him straight up in the nuts.
Oh, you wait, girl. He says, "You bitches want a party?" Because he had been listening. He knows they want to go to a party. Well, Tanya and Misty were intimidated and just kind of froze.
Sure.
You know, they weren't going to be able to ghost this one so easily. So this creep, he forces them into the bushes and orders them to take off their clothes. Well, Misty was frozen and didn't respond, but Tanya did as she was told. He then ordered them to lay on the ground. In that moment, Tanya, she looked at Misty with these big green eyes, and she was terrified. And Misty thought, well, I could run away to get help. Now is my chance. But she was afraid to leave her friend.
Yeah.
The man, he got on his knees kind of behind Tanya, and he began raping her. And, you know, Misty standing there watching, and she decided her best option was to be a badass because she saw that baseball bat on the ground.
Oh, he put it down.
Yes.
Okay.
She wanted to swing it at his head, but she was afraid she would miss and hit her friend because she was shaking. She was so scared.
Of course.
So she swung it at his back. And the plan was to hit him in the head once he was away from her friend, right? She pissed him off is what she did. He pried himself away from Tanya, turned toward her, and she tried to hit him in the head. He was still on his knees, but he caught the bat. And he stood up, and there was a struggle. Misty remembers screaming at Tanya to run away as fast as you can. Eventually, she just couldn't hold on to the bat anymore. He overpowered her. She remembers just screaming, pleading for her life, and saying she was sorry. He screamed at her that she was a bitch and she would pay for what she did. And the beating that followed was vicious. I mean, it was so bad. He rained blows down on Misty until she was unconscious. The doctors later said that Misty received several home run swings from that baseball bat, and she was left for dead. But Misty was not dead. So she woke up laying face down in a parking lot, and bleeding and confused, she sits up, she looks around, and she started talking to Tanya, not even realizing that Tanya wasn't even there. And she wanted to go home and lay down and just kind of put this night behind her, but she was so lost. Instead, she stumbled into the Abbotsford Hospital emergency room.
Is that where she woke up, in that parking lot?
She woke up in a parking lot. And I know when she was in the bushes, she could see her school from where she was at.
Okay.
So the article that I read, I also watched her I Survived episode, which is, oh my God, I can't even. So she wakes up on the other side of a parking lot. Now, if it was in the school parking lot, she wouldn't have probably been lost per se.
Right.
So I'm assuming it was the hospital parking lot. But she walks into the ER and she remembers the nurse, how big her eyes were when she saw her. She was able to tell the nurses and doctors what happened, and thinking that the man might still be hanging around, they rushed someone to search the area, but they found nothing. Misty's injuries were severe. Her arm and finger were broken, and she had severe skull fractures. She remembers talking to a nurse, turning her head and feeling liquid come out of her ear.
Oh.
And it was blood and spinal fluid gushing out because she had a hole in her skull the size of a baseball that was pressing against her brain. Tanya was found later, and this is really sad, floating down the Vedder River. After he had knocked Misty unconscious, he continued to rape Tanya, beat her relentlessly with that bat, and tossed her in the water. Coroner said that although she probably would not have survived the beating, her cause of death was actually the drowning.
So she was still alive when he dumped her in the river.
Yes, kind of like your story last week, your case last week. So shortly after the attack, the killer engaged in a course of very bizarre behavior. He taunted police by calling 911, and the first of which went like this. He said, "I'm the killer. Her right nipple tasted so good." Well, the killer had bitten Tanya on the right breast and left bite marks, and that wasn't known to the public. So they knew this was the man making the calls. Well, in another call to police, he said, "You guys did a real thorough job, but do you think I would be stupid enough to leave a fingerprint behind?"
No, but you bit her, you dumbass.
Right. And these calls started happening, pretty quickly after the murder. And about 20 minutes later, he calls again. "Are you having trouble finding the killer?" 20 minutes later. "Hello, honey." They ask, "Did you want to provide information to the police?" The dispatch asks, and he's like, "No, I'm the one. You're the..." And he says, "I'm giving you a chance to try and find me. I'll be cruising around looking for someone else." They say, "What's your name?" "Just to let you know who I am, Tanya's nipple tasted really good. And what is your name?" And then the call disconnected. Both calls were traced to two different payphones, but there was no one there when police arrived. Back in the days of payphones.
Wow.
95. That was the year Toy Story came out. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was. But payphones.
Well, that's, over 20, that's almost 30 years ago.
Stop it.
That's how old my child is. She was born in 95.
So about a week later was Tanya's funeral. Her friends and family gathered around her, but little did they know Tanya's attacker had attended the funeral as well. He even took his 2 preschool children with him.
Oh, what a sicko. But they do that a lot. The killer or whatever, they kind of insert themselves either into an investigation or whatever.
They do, but Terry, he did not know his victims, which I read didn't really fit the MO. Like 85% of homicides are typically someone you know.
Right.
He also didn't fit the typical age range. On Halloween, he made another taunting call to police, even worse than the last, describing what he did to Tanya and saying in detail what he would do to his next victim. Well, when police arrived at the payphone this call was made from, they found no one. Well, later they would discover that the killer had been watching them from a nearby diner.
Just waiting to be caught.
It's almost as if he has an insight. Like he knows.
He's a step ahead.
Yes. So at this point, police released some of the audio of the phone calls to the media, hoping that someone would recognize the voice. And although no one came forward, Misty was able to identify the voice as the man that attacked her and killed Tanya. About 4 months later, the killer goes to the cemetery where Tanya was buried, uses a crowbar to steal her headstone.
What?
He then called the local radio station and told them to come look in their parking lot.
Oh my God.
So they walk outside and broadcasters found Tanya's headstone on the hood of one of the cars.
Do you know how heavy those are?
He had to be strong.
He had to be a big guy, I'm guessing.
So there was a message from her killer written in felt pen on the stone. It said, "She was not the first. She won't be the last. I'm still looking, and you won't find me. One day, Misty." And I think he wrote this, he wants her to know he isn't finished. And that there was like a 7-month period where he just taunted her. And I can't imagine being the one that survived.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say that.
Because how brave of her to try to defend her friend in that way.
Yeah, but also how terrifying for her for the last 7 months. Maybe, I don't know if she knew that he was taunting the police or not. I'm guessing she did. Is he going to come for me next?
The whole community was realizing, because here's the deal. I mean, he wrote this at the radio station. He knew, he wanted that publicity. He craved it. And that was, a big deal to him. And also, things didn't pan out the way he had hoped. So he kept kind of fantasizing something else.
Right.
So the headstone, this one had an actual picture of Tanya on it. And so again, to prove that it was him, he circled the breast he had bitten and wrote "yummy tit" with an arrow to that area of her body. And the torment her family must have gone through. Terrible. So 2 days later, he was back at Taunting the police again. He called and asked if they liked his present he gave them and reminded them that Tanya would not be his last victim. You know, the person taking these calls was probably just like...
I'd be like, all right, motherfucker, where are you? You can take me. Let's tango. Jeez.
I mean, sometimes Claudia gets tired of answering the phone.
Sometimes.
This guy calls like all the time. I mean, I would probably be like, hello, Papa John's, just to throw him off. Okay, this time, though, when the police went to the payphone that the call was made from, someone had actually seen him, and they were able to give a description.
Oh, nice.
Good thinking. We love you. The killer was 6 foot, had a slim build, and he was in his mid-30s, they said. They also remembered the make and model of his car, so they felt like they had something to go off of.
Right.
Well, a few days later, a woman called the police. So this was the strangest thing. Only a couple of days later, she's sitting in her home. Someone throws a wrench through her front window with a message taped to it. And there was this envelope, and on the front, it says from the killer, call 911. And it's kind of funny because he also wrote it on the back, from the Abby killer, call 911, just in case if it landed like one way or the other. He's kind of like, oh, I better do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before they just throw it away.
Yeah, she might not think anything of it. I better label both sides. Let me get my label maker out. But the killer, he was getting sloppy. Police found a fingerprint on the sticky side of the tape. Okay, but it was so obvious, it almost seemed like it was put there on purpose. And I believe that it was on purpose. I feel like he just wants to be caught at this point. Well, inside the envelope was a newspaper clipping with a picture of Misty with the words, luck to be alive, written on across her forehead, as well as a picture of Tanya. That's not a typo. He actually wrote luck to be alive. So he must have been drinking while typing, which I would not recommend.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he meant lucky.
I could say so much about this guy right now.
Don't hold back. Included in the envelope was a long letter confessing to the rape and murder of Tanya Smith and the assault on Misty Cockerell, as well as 3 other assaults on women in Abbotsford. Oh, so it began. Here's the letter. Hello, it's me! Exclamation. Come on, motherfucker.
Who's me?
Read the outside attachment.
Yeah.
The Abby. Oh my God.
Hello.
I can't make this up. Ready?
Okay.
Yes, sirree. Tanya's right nipple sure did taste good. By the way, Tanya was wearing sandals that night, and I threw them with her other stuff. The letter goes on to describe the attack in detail, as well as other conquests, and ended in another taunt. Bye, guys. This is the last you hear from me. Till next time, good luck! Exclamation points.
I do have a question. Were there 3 other women?
Yes.
Okay. Never mind. I was going to say, he's just making himself... Okay, never mind then.
No, it's okay.
We'll get to it.
That's all right. So at this point, word has gotten out that Tanya had the bite mark on her body, but not the location, so they still know the letter's genuine, and the fingerprint found was the killer's, so they had this to go off of. The conquests in the letter recalled 3 assaults in chilling detail. One was a 12-year-old girl that he had groped, but she managed to get away. Well, the second victim was attacked from behind and struck in the head, knocking her out. The third victim was found unconscious near the hospital with a life-threatening head injury. Her backpack with $200 was found on the rooftop of a nearby building. All information contained in the letter. Now, inside the envelope containing the note, he included the clippings from the Vancouver Sun on the unsolved murders of 3 women.
Oh.
Vancouver prostitute Linda Totry, Colleen Shook of Burnaby, who was attacked after getting off a bus, and Kim Stolberg, who was killed at her father's Richmond office while she was arranging a surprise wedding anniversary for her parents.
Oh.
I know. All 3 women were stabbed to death in 1989. So,
The year I graduated high school.
I'm
Wow.
just kind of wondering. I mean, his kids were preschoolers when these attacks happened.
Well, but in 89, okay, so these two girls happened in 95.
Yes. Okay, so now with mounting information, including DNA found on Tanya's body, voice recordings, fingerprints, and descriptions from witnesses, police released more info to the public, including some more of the voice recordings of the phone calls. Donald Driver heard the voice recordings and called the police to tell them that they sounded a lot like his brother Terry.
Oh.
Isn't that's gut-wrenching? Donald's mother, Audrey, also called the police and stated that all of her other children had listened to the recordings and they all believed that it was the voice of her son, Terry Driver. That's got to be the hardest phone call a mother's got to make. Got to give her kudos.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So they remembered that Terry had told his sister that he had gone to Tanya's funeral, and that about 2 weeks after that, in an argument with his brother, Terry had said, "Don't fuck with me. You don't know me anymore, and you don't know what I'm capable of doing anymore." So right away, his family was like, what the fuck? Terry was arrested shortly after when police were able to match his fingerprint to the one found on the tape used on the wrench thrown through the window. They had a mountain of evidence against him. So Terry was 31 years old at the time, a married father of two, a one-time Boy Scout leader, and son of a decorated former Vancouver Police Sergeant.
Ooh.
Terry was one of those avid scanner chasers. He would listen to the police scanner and go to the scene of whatever interested him and watch the police go about doing their job. And he probably grew up with one in the home.
Sure.
He was obsessed with it. He would make his taunting phone calls to police, then listen to the response on the scanner, often loading his children in his car and going to the scene because no one would suspect the father with two kids in the car being the murderer. Terry's defense decided to explain his actions by blaming various disorders specifically, and I'm sorry, it's quite hilarious to me. They blamed it on his Tourette's syndrome.
Wow.
Yes.
So, but he didn't have it.
No. He had Tourette's syndrome, ADHD, and OCD. And they claimed he was unable to resist when he had violent or sexual urges. But here's the thing, that's bullshit. After his arrest, Terry denied that he had beaten the two girls. In fact, he came up with a very different account of that day, as you do when you stand on the threshold of consequence. He said that he came across girls after they had already been attacked, that he found them unconscious on the ground. Tanya just happened to be naked and was unable to resist having sex with her.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So after he did that, he found that she had randomly stopped breathing.
Oh.
Just randomly. He went on to explain that he panicked. He loaded Tanya's body into his car and drove Misty to the emergency room. After that, he drove to his favorite fishing spot on Vedder River and threw Tanya's body in. Likely story. So,
well, that part may be true. He probably dumped her in the hospital parking lot.
Yeah.
And then dumped.
She definitely walked into the hospital.
Yeah.
Look, he's a big liar. We can't trust anything the man says.
True.
Prosecutors criticized the defense, saying that they did a disservice trying to blame Terry's actions on his Tourette's and his OCD. There are many people suffering from those disorders that lead meaningful lives without harming anyone. Well, they also brought up the fact that aside from having been diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, he was diagnosed with OCD and Tourette's by defense psychiatrists after he had been arrested.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
It's a great way to, it's a great thing to use. But Terry's story didn't match any of the evidence. Misty walked to the hospital. Why did he call police admitting multiple times to being the killer? Why did he deface Tanya's gravestone and threaten Misty again if he was out of his mind? Terry's defense decided it was probably best to do a trial by judge than by jury. So they didn't think a jury would be sympathetic.
What made him think a judge would be?
Turns out Judge Wally Opal didn't buy his tall tales either. And at trial, he was found guilty of rape and murder of Tanya Smith and the assault on Misty Cockerell. And in 2000 declared a dangerous offender, receiving an indefinite sentence. He appealed, but in 2001, he lost that appeal. And Misty went on, recovered. She is a staunch advocate for victims' rights, and she completed her bachelor's in sociology. She is a public speaker. Mm-hmm. She's just amazing. And I think if Terry's family hadn't contacted the police, he definitely would have continued.
Well, kudos to the family, because that can't be easy.
Yeah, not at all.
I mean, that might be easy. It might be easy for me to throw my siblings under the bus, but for a mother to call on your own son, on your child, that has got to be hard.
Yeah, I cannot imagine. I'm sure she was relieved this last summer when he died of cancer in his cell.
Okay, he was 31?
He was 31 in 95.
So that's almost 30 years ago. So still kind of young.
Yes.
That's kind of a bummer. I mean, he could have stayed another 20, 30 years there and just rot.
Yeah, they ended up transferring him to a psychiatric hospital. And Canada got a lot of grief over that, for doing that.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool how she kind of survived and is able to speak for victims. Mm-hmm. And
what a hard situation to be in. You see your friend getting raped. You have the chance to run away. Do I run to get help or do I stay? You know, to make that decision has got to be so hard. You don't want to leave your friend, but if you run away and you get away, will he get off of her and run away? Maybe save both, kill her sooner. You know, you just don't know.
It's so hard.
It's terrible.
The lengths he went to terrify her and make himself known. I can't imagine how those 7 months after the attack, at such a young age, what she had to go through.
I probably would never leave my house.
Just this story blew me away at her courage and strength. And I'd like to think that I would do the same. Cheers.
Why are you looking at me like that? I'd be like, okay, love you, bye. Deuces. No, I would like to think that I would stay and help and definitely take advantage of that bat laying on the floor, on the ground.
Right.
You know.
Too bad it wasn't a gun or something like that, because I think she definitely had it in her. And I just wish she would have gotten that second swing that she wanted.
So, but after those two, there weren't any others, right? It was just those women before them. Because he kept saying, you know, there's going to be more, or I'm looking for my next.
No.
So, okay.
Yeah. It all happened very quickly. And the threats kept coming. And that's why I just think he really just wanted to be caught. Like he couldn't live with his double life he was leading. And I wonder, you know, his wife at the time and kids are still out there, I'm sure, and trying to
move past this. I mean, probably move away, change your names. That's what I would do with my children.
Absolutely.
Anyway. And I would never, how old were his kids, you said? They were in preschool age?
Yes, they were young.
If I would never speak of their father again, and later they probably would not remember.
The mom probably says the dad is Garth Brooks, like you do. But I would do.
Oh my gosh, yes, I used to do that.
But thanks for listening. Thank you. If you love this podcast, all of our weirdness and tall tales of, the worst of humanity. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for following us, sharing, liking, subscribing, and only let your closest friends know about us.
Let all your friends know.
You can support the show at ko-fi.com/judgykrimegirls. That's ko-fi.com/judgykrimegirls. And you can, buy us a coffee.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Or whatever. Yeah, definitely buy us a coffee.
Coffee.
I think that's what it is. Coffee. Coffee. Coffee.
Coffee. We really appreciate it. I think
Thank you so much, guys.
$3 coffee, and basically it helps keep us up at night to continue typing.
Do the research.
We love what we do, and we're excited. It's been a year, and we really appreciate every one of you listening. So,
also, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can always shoot us an email, judgykrimegirls@gmail.com. Or shoot us a message on Facebook. Follow us there, Judgy Crime Girls. On Instagram, we are Stay Judgy. So you can follow us there too.
I guess we will see you guys next week. And until then, stay judgy. We hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.